Good to go? Hello, welcome. My name is Leigh Roberts, and I am the founder of a company called Quire. And let me just get my notes up here so I know what I'm doing. Okay. Quire is a company that's based in Los Angeles. Today, I'm going to show you the Google-like predictive autocomplete for search. The last session I was in, Paul said he had the longest title, but it's possible that mine beats his. I've looked for a way to simplify this title, and I couldn't find it. And there's no acronym GILP AFS. I don't know. So this is not only the first time I've ever presented a tech concept to an audience, it's also the first time that I've been to XDC. So I'm happy to not only be here for the first time, but actually have the honor of speaking to you for the first time as well. Okay. So I'm going to give you just a little background about myself. A lot of people here at the conference know each other. I've had the privilege of meeting Tim and just had a great conversation with Jeff. But you guys probably don't know who I am. So I founded Quire, as I said. We build apps for the entertainment industry. So this would be film and TV in Hollywood. One of the apps is that we make is called QwireCast. It's a desktop app currently, and casting directors use it to create, manage, and distribute lists of actors that are being considered for film and television shows. We have studios mostly as our clients, so WB, MGM, Paramount, Disney, that kind of thing. Our current version that's in production right now is on FileMaker. But where we want to take the product next kind of meant we needed to take control of the source code and where we want to end up and the kinds of products that we want to build is going to require something that is a little different than what FileMaker offers us right now. So last year I began to search for a solution that would allow me to port QwireCast from FileMaker, and that's when I discovered Xojo. So I've only been using Xojo for a year. And it's been really wonderful. It's been the only product, I think, of its kind. And it's allowed me, somebody like me who doesn't have a background in computer science, to really take the reins and do this work. Is there other people in the room that come from FileMaker, or can you raise your hands if you have? Yeah, it's a good amount. So if there's time at the end, I know I'm presenting a very specific thing here, but I can also talk generally about moving from FileMaker to Xojo in this particular product. I did very much a one-to-one transfer of every feature, every UI element. It's a pretty big challenge. Okay. So yeah, as I said, I'm not really this guy, as much as I'd like to be. I'm probably more like this guy. I'm a garage tinkerer. That's how I started in computers. I basically like to figure out how to make things work and hook things together and see what they do. My career, up until getting into software, is and continues to be as a music composer for film and TV, which is how I kind of came about doing the casting software. This is a film opening this summer that I scored. It's co-produced by Gina Davis, and it's about gender inequality in Hollywood. It's really a great documentary. I was excited to hear yesterday that the user group of Xojo, female user group, has increased by, what was it? It's doubled in 2 years. Now, if we can only get that same ratio at the conference, that would be awesome. In addition to the serious work I've done, I managed to find some time to do some crazy music videos that are 80s parodies. So the links are there. You don't have to try to write them down. If you just Google the names, you can find them. And speaking of Google, segue. We come back to the main point of this presentation, which is, what does a Google-like predictive search for autocomplete even mean? Despite its kludgy title, it's something that we all use every day. And it's so intuitive, we don't even really think about it. It's kind of a search before you search, right? Like, you're getting this list of results as you start typing. As you start typing the first letter, there's some crazy algorithms going on behind the scenes there at Google to get this to work, I'm sure. By the second letter, the list is getting even smarter. Third letters, smarter still. And really, by the fourth letter, just 4 letters in, I'm probably going to see what I actually want to search for there in the list. In this case, Mr. Jerry Seinfeld. And voila. So in 4 letters, I got my Google search. So yeah, it really is a search before a search, right? I mean, there's something behind the scenes that's trying to predict what it is you want to search for, and then it displays it. The way Google does it, it seems, is it's putting not only maybe alphabetically, but also the most popular, the most clicked on stuff at the top. For QwireCast and maybe other enterprise level software that's single solution, maybe that's an irrelevant metric to use. For us, it's the name, the actor's name, Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lawrence. These casting directors, they're like walking encyclopedias. Their brains, they just have mountains of names in their heads at all time, and their job is to bring up that actor's card, that data, start considering them for a role instantly. So as porting this over, FileMaker actually has an autocomplete feature in their fields. You can just click a box and there's autocomplete. That's great, but if you want to customize that in any way, you really needed to, again, do some coding, and in Xojo, it gave me the opportunity to really say, well, what's actually going on here? How is this going to work? So what I built is very similar to the way Google does it. As you are 3 letters in, you're getting a list of actors, and you've got this nice list box that's basically in the foreground with a scroll bar. As you type the name, the list is getting more and more specific. As you start to see who it is you want, it will autocomplete the name there and whittle it down to just one choice. So it works very much like Google in that regard. Hopefully they don't sue me. Press enter, and you get the search result. So there's actually a lot that you have to consider when you're thinking about something like this, right? For example, what happens when you press the delete key? So you're searching for Jennifer and you backspace 2. Well, now you've got the opposite of a search. You have what is a narrow list that now has to become a broad list again, right? So there's that consideration. You've got arrow keys. So if I'm going to arrow down my list, well, you have to come out of your search field at that point and now jump into the list box and head down. You've got to capture those keystrokes. What happens when you hit enter or return? Are you going to bring up a search result? You're going to do something else. So that's got to be coded. You've got to consider that. What happens when you click the mouse in the list? This is an interesting one that I came across. What happens if you're in the middle of typing a search and the list box is covering something you want to see, and so you click out of the search field and you want to go back in, but you don't want to start your search over. It's got to kind of remember where you were, what position you were in. Copy paste. Same thing. Pasting into a field, you got a trap for that and handle that differently. And same with drag and drop. And probably the most important thing is it needs to be fast and responsive, because if it's not, it's really not any good to you. If the point is you're trying to type a name, and people can type pretty fast. So if it's not displaying that list like immediately, it's going to feel slow, and it's going to feel like not great. So my challenge was to kind of figure out, how can I do this, and how can I do it over the internet and have this be really fast? And I know it could be done. Google does it, so I'm at least as good as Google, I think. So I just started thinking about the problem, right? And the first approach was like, okay, well, each letter I type is a search, right? Because I'm going to type A, I'm going to search for all A names, and then AM, I'm going to search for all things that are AM. And so each one I'm going to query this database of thousands of actors of names, and then I'm going to get back a results list. Well, the problem with that is you're pinging this database, and if you're over the internet and there's thousands of names, you may not get the performance that you really want. So I kind of gave up on that idea. The pro of this is it's pretty easy to program. I mean, we can all do that. It's not a problem. But the con is it's not very efficient. It has, you just don't want to be doing a separate query for each letter of a string. That feels wrong. Even now, I guess our technology is at the point where it's probably pretty fast to do it that way. But I thought there might have been a better way. So I kind of thought that maybe as we type, and again, everyone's use case is going to be a little different here, but I don't think they need a results list by typing the letter M. My guess is MAR or JEN, and then we start giving a results list. So right away, that first query to that external database, remote database, you're not going to get back 1,000 M's, you're going to get back 500 MARs. So you're already going to get back that initial list in a way that's a little more efficient. Then I thought, okay, well, what if we take that initial list that we get back and just store it locally? Because now I can just keep pinging that local database. That's going to be a lot faster and a lot more efficient. And then I'm getting the results list back from local storage. So I was like, great, done. Well, not really, because yes, you get faster results. This adds more complexity, so potential for more bugs, potential for more things to go wrong. But if you really want to focus on the local storage, okay, here's our results list that we got from the remote database, and the user is going to continue to type. Yeah, we're getting a smaller list, but we still kind of have the same issue. I mean, now I'm just pinging the local database with every letter typed, which will go a lot faster and may even at the end of the day be just fine. But that's the easy method, and we already decided I didn't like that. So I'm not going to do that again. Instead, what I do is I'm looping through the local database. I'm removing anything that's not matching the subsequent letters, and which means every time you type a letter, you're actually searching a smaller and smaller list. So at the end of the day, by the time I get to Jennifer, I'm searching a list that has 2 items. So that's the speed of light. I mean, you're not going to get faster than that. We have the other interesting problem that I mentioned before, which is the delete key. Going from that narrow list to the wider list is kind of interesting. Now, maybe there's a SQL statement for that I'm not aware of. It's entirely possible. But the way I chose to deal with it was to basically store the initial local list in a dictionary in Xojo that I could refer back to. So if you're hitting that delete key, I'm going to go back to that list and say, okay, who's not now in my local list? Let me throw them back and put them back. And so you get that nice, efficient way of doing this. Which brings me to the live demo. That was actually pretty quick getting through that. Is there any questions so far? All right, well, let me see if I can do this. The big challenge here. Oh, I thought I had it open. I don't. Yes, yes, when you get to 0, or you get under the threshold, or you get to 0, you have to hit the remote database.
Until then, you've got all this data in your local.
Yes, yeah. Right, so you're really all the work is being done in that local store. Occasionally you have to go back to the source and grab it. We contacted Tim Dietrich here to help build the APIs for QwireCast, and he gave us a special command to get that initial list of names that gets nothing else. So we really optimized in MySQL how fast that initial list comes down, and I have it set to get that list when the program opens, and it happens so fast I never even noticed. I have to check to see if it even did it because it's really fast. And in this case, we've got 10,000 names, right? And that's for QwireCast, the library size tends to be between 5,000 and 20,000 names in the database. It's not millions, but it's not nothing either, right? I've simulated that here for the purposes of the demo. I put 10,000 names, close to 10,000 names in a happy list box over here. By the way, I populated that with an array, so it's pretty crazy. There's just like this. You scroll to the right to see all 10,000 names in the programming console. So I'll just show you how this works. Does anyone want to throw out an actor's name? Chances are they're probably in here. Zachary? Z-A. Am I spelling that right? There it is. Boom. That's matching back, by the way, to the 10th. I know this would depend on your solution, however you want to do this match back. I was just showing you the way, we can jump to a name. You can really see. Anyone else got one? Oh, God. E-L-I-J? G? Maybe they're not in here. Yeah, let's try that. And that's a good point. Thank you, because that's actually really helpful to talk about sorting, which I didn't do. So it's sorting on first and last name and showing the results that have a direct match first. So the letter, the whole word would, you can see as my first result. And then Woody, okay, well that's adding a letter. And you can see that the further you get away from the top, the sort of less relevant the list becomes. Does that help? Okay. And like I was saying, as you type, it's getting more and more. Oops. And there you go. So you have Jennifer Lawrence, click return. The app that I created for the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to share for free, totally open with the community. I'm going to post a link after this conference. My only request is, because there are so many people and great brains in this room, you're going to want to improve on it. You're going to look at my code. You're going to find things. Yes, there's going to probably be a bug or two in there, I'm sure. Improve on it, send it back, share it back. You can put it in your apps, but if you improve it, I'm going to put it back in my app too. So the other thing I just wanted to show you about this little mock-up is you can set the threshold so you can see what that's like. If I set that to 1 now, I'm going to get those lists like right away, right? Oops. And if I set it to 4, it's just not giving me anything until I hit that 4th character. And again, what's nice about that is you're not being noisy with results that are probably not going to matter until you get to a certain character in. And again, that's going to depend on your use case and your app. I've also given just some UI here to just show you kind of what's going on as you type. So every time you click in the box, obviously no results found. This isn't something the user would see necessarily, but it's something that I just thought as you're going through this and you're trying to kind of figure out how it works, it's helpful to see. And it's also telling you when the full initial population happens versus the subsequent ones. So because it's getting this list for the first time, it's telling you the first initial population ran. No results found. I can't spell or type apparently. So subtractive removals ran. That meant that it was eliminating those things.
So can you show us or talk about the lost focus here?
Yeah, that actually ended up not being as hard as you might think because I'm just testing for the mouse click outside of this area, just on the window. And I'm just doing a hide on the list box, just a visible false, basically. And then when you click back in, it's just doing the reverse of that. But it was something to think about. I also experimented with, and something that I came across doing this, which I thought was a really neat thing, is you can drag something into your project and set its height to 0, and it vanishes from the UI, but is still there. It's almost like when you drag a thread and it's on the bottom but not in the panel. It kind of behaves like that, which is really cool because if you're doing anything, which I had to do as part of the FileMaker port where you're layering controls, and sometimes your screen gets a little busy with all that stuff on it, you can dynamically control the height of things in your code and just set it to 0 after you've dragged it onto the screen, and it won't, you'll have to remember it's there, but you'll see it in your bin on the left. But that's a really cool thing that I discovered recently just by doing this. Sir? So it's still, but it's out of the view. Yeah, it's off the screen. Right. But then when you want to use it, you'll have to reposition it in your code. Right. So that's cool. My only question there is there any performance hit by having those controls kind of living off screen or not? No? Okay. Cool. Yeah.
So I write medical software and have lists of patients frequently, and some of the doctors that I deal with have tens of thousands of patients in practice. And I've had to implement something pretty similar. One of the suggestions, I guess, I would have would be, do you have it set up so that you can search for part of the first name and a part of the last name without having to type in all of either one of them? And
yes.
Question, and then second, kind of a follow-on to that. When I built mine, I found that I had to make it so that the breakup between first, middle, and last name, I had to accept spacebar, periods, commas, dashes, all those kinds of things, because the doctors, they search me.
Right. So I think is it a two-pronged question, which I think is there a way to do an advanced search, basically, on multiple parameters, and you make sort of the way Google does it, if you put something in quotes, maybe, or... and then secondly is what if they're typing in invalid characters or something like that?
It was more of if they're searching for Robert Jones,
mm-hmm.
They want to type in R-O, comma, J, and find Robert Jones.
Right.
Or J, comma, R.
I see.
And so I've had to implement all of those kinds of different things. And so I'm just curious.
That's amazing. That is not in here. Actually, in QwireCast, we have an advanced search button that actually brings up a whole different panel that says, actors' age and nationality, and you can set those multiple parameters. But I love that idea, and if that's an improvement you want to add to this, absolutely.
We'll look forward to that. It's only really possible to do well if you separated first name, middle name, last name. If it's just Now you got to parse it out and figure out what's the first name, what's the last
Right.
name. So it all, you have to look for this.
That actually, it also reminded me, because I forgot to mention, the way that I'm matching back is I'm storing, when I'm not actually comparing when I go to match back, I'm not comparing text. I just store the index of the big list in the small list. And that's how I'm able to just very quickly shoot back. And so once I get a match, it's like, oh, that's index 510. And then it just goes back to the big list and goes to 510. And that was actually an easy, because then I didn't have to worry about actually matching back the strings, right? I could just grab the index and let the user pick the name that they want, and then I'm just getting the index number. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to share this. I have a Dropbox account and a link that I'll put it on. I wasn't sure if the community had another site or somewhere they'd like to have this posted, but I'll send it to her today, yeah. Okay, that's great. So it's 11:30, so which means around about a half an hour. Are there any other questions?
You record as you added while we speak together. After 2 seconds, you will tap again the database, or you need to erase everything and restart.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
For example, it's Daisy Bet.
Yeah.
If the job has been added 2 seconds ago, you need to erase everything and just start again.
Oh, so his question, if I'm understanding it, is if I started to type bets, you know what it is? It's the angle of this podium makes it very hard to type. It's very hard. I'm not that bad, I promise. So if I understand it, if I typed Daisy Bets and I started to delete and I get back to here or here, am I going back to the full list? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
No, I'm going back to the local list. I'm not going back to the full because I'm still over the threshold.
Even if you are in the search for example,
Now, if I go back to, what am I set on, 4?
5 minutes, because you just called hey, what is your name? I don't remember. So, it's a new record, so we need to erase
It's another
everything.
user's update, in other words.
Oh, if another user's updating.
Right.
Well, I guess what would happen is anytime it's calling the initial list, so long as the database populated, you'll get it. But it won't. You're right. It won't be on your local copy. I don't have it updating in real time on the local copy. The local copy will get cleared the minute you're done with your search, or the minute you.
So if you drop below your threshold,
The next search is going to be so. Same example. If I go down to DA. Now I'm below my threshold, I don't have anything, and I'm gonna say Dan. Okay, it says right over here, right, full initial populate, because there was I didn't bring in any Dans. I brought in Daisies before. Sorry, Dan. Yeah, and the way that I'm doing the sort is let's see if I can even remember this. I have a number, like 6-digit number, to sort of give that the priority. So I'm doing the sort algorithms and assigning a value, and then I'm just sorting that list by that value. So the list itself isn't doing the sort. It's sort of happening first, and then it's just sorting by the number. And that's in the code. You can easily find that. I've tried to comment everything as best I could. Like I said, I've only been using Xojo for a year, and I was actually really impressed with myself that I was able to do this. So, and that's really more a testament to Xojo than anything, because this is something coming from FileMaker, and I'm sure the FileMaker people would agree with this. It's a great platform for a specific purpose. When you start to go outside that purpose, you kind of be like, I wish I could do this one thing, and if there's no way to do it, you're kind of stuck. And then, so for me to just imagine this from scratch and to actually be able to do it was really an inspirational experience for me. Sir?
Just on that
So,
I mean, I understand the eliminating
yeah,
part of it, but
the dictionaries are really fast, and I've been using them more and more. I am using I keep saying local storage, and it's not in the program. It's actually a dictionary. What I am using, and I didn't repeat the question. He was saying, what was the why have a local storage versus just putting it in a dictionary? And the answer really is yes, because I am doing it. I'm saying local storage, but I'm not using SQLite or anything like that. It's in a dictionary that's sitting in a property, and that's the local storage that I'm using. And again, you can do that. There's 1,000 ways you could decide to do that. This is so fast, actually, that I have tested not even, you don't even need to keep that local list locally. You can do this all on the server, and it performs amazingly well. So you don't even really need to do the local part. I mean, it's important to have that step, because that's an important part of the workflow. But that list itself can be stored anywhere. It could be somewhere else on your local network. It could be on another server somewhere. I don't know why you'd want to do that necessarily, but that's just in sort of assessing the performance of this. That's one of the things I was trying, and it was really fast. Yeah, the only other storage that I have in this demo is for this simulated database. You're going to see that. If you guys use this, you're going to want to go through it and take out the dev labels and the code that's populating those. There's some computed properties. You're not going to need them unless you want to have them hanging around. Maybe sometime after the conference, I'll give it another pass and remove that stuff and post an updated version that's really just streamlined. Yeah, sir.
So one thing I noticed here, and it's probably not much of a problem for you, but if a person has one of those one name monitors,
One name.
that's really short, if it's below your threshold,
You won't see it. Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, I will not, I never remember that. I have it written down in 1,000 places too. The question is, what if you have someone's name that falls below the threshold? What do you do? Well, my answer to that would anticipate that and set a lower threshold. We deal with the opposite problem with that in QwireCast, where people have obscenely long names and they don't fit on the form or the view, and we get calls, what do you do? Yeah, you got to figure it out. Is there an example of like somebody who has a 2-letter name that's like known? Like Ty, T-Y. Yeah. So you could just set it to one character. I mean, it works just great at one character. I think it's, once you're pulling in that list, that initial list, it probably won't matter too much whether you're pulling in 1,000 names or 5,000 names. At least the performance that I've been getting doesn't seem to matter that much. Yes? Oh, the return key. That's a great point. Love it. His suggestion is that test for the return key. So if you type 2 letters return, consider that a search and search on that. That's a great solution. Yeah. Right. Love it. Thank you. Anyone else? Anything? Yeah, sir.
I guess in the same thing. My question was, I'm curious as to why you see the same actors in so many films.
So the question is, why do we see the same actors in every film? I will give you a list of 20 casting directors' emails after the conference, their personal phone numbers as well, and you can call them. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Right. Right. I will, let's see, I did it local. Okay, question, yes. He was saying, Tim, because he's worked on actual QwireCast, he said seeing the search in the actual program using the remote data is a nice experience. I did it locally here in case the Wi-Fi didn't work. But since it does appear to be working pretty nicely, why don't I just load QwireCast? Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to load an earlier version of it because I disabled that. Oh, I'm still zoomed in, aren't I? Like, what is going on? I think 23. This is, by the way, this is exactly the technique that Paul said do not do for backups. If you were in his conference. Yeah, this is not version control. I'm not pretending it is. Yeah, I pretty much admit to doing all of the bad habits that I don't know if this earlier version is going to make it. Let me just try one more. If it doesn't, then. I think this is hooked up. Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, let's zoom. Okay, now this is hitting the MySQL database in Los Angeles. So. Yeah. Yeah, we have her social security number as well, so if you'd like that. There is, let's see, who's a single name actor? Like I don't know, The Rock. Do we have him? No, he's probably going to be. Oh well, like here's an interesting. So, and that's the advantage again of searching just by that matching back with that index is. I mean, look at that. That would. That's a disaster waiting to happen right there. $sign quotes. So yeah, we don't have to worry about that.
So they really just search on name. They don't say, I want to blank.
Well, okay, so in QwireCast, we do have that and that's what I was saying this advanced search is for. So I could say, show me females from the age of 23 to 24, for example. And then there's other like height, country attributes here that you can do. Again, I'm not sure if this is hooked up. Let's see what happens. I think it is actually. And this will be a pretty big list, so it might take a second. I probably crashed. Yes, alpha software, so fun. Yeah. So that's embarrassing, like just standing up here showing you like all the times my app crashes. That's great.
We all do it.
But based on my version control, you can see this is only version 22 of 25, so you should give me some slack for that. But yeah, to answer the question is, I didn't build in any advanced search in that field, so the version 1.0 is just the name. But again, it's basically the list, it's whatever you want to match back to. If it's not a name, you can make it something else. Because again, it's matching back to that ID. So whatever your initial list is, whatever two strings you want to compare, you can do that. To build in advanced search into the toolbar itself, I love the idea. I know personally, I never do that, and I would love to remember what all the little things are for Google so I could narrow that down, and I'm always just typing a string. I'm not saying, equals and then putting something in quotes. And I'm sure a lot of you guys do that, and I wish I could remember. The problem is I don't remember. Yeah.
You could probably, it would take a bit of work, but you could probably do something where, okay, I know that I've typed in enough search a name. Now they put in just an M space and just an M, or just an S, so I know that's male female. And they put a number in, okay, I know that that's an age. And they put 23-25, I know that's a range. They can probably, I can see someone putting in JENN Well, they probably wouldn't put a name. That's the thing, right? If actually thinking back now, if they're doing advanced search, then they're probably not going to type a name at all.
They're not doing a name, yeah.
They put F space 22.
That's exactly right.
25, and then you can just start parsing that stuff out.
Right. I would probably do both. Oh, sorry. He was saying that the advanced search probably wouldn't be a name, so it could be maybe an either or, like you're going to enter a name, or you're going to say age equals 25, for example, or something along those lines. That's a cool idea. One of the things that we always have to realize as developers and such is that the users of our products tend to not be as technically minded sometimes, and in particular, teaching somebody QwireCast sometimes is just challenging. Having them to then have to remember how to do an advanced search is even more challenging. They're going to click that button every time and do it that way, which then begs the question, do you want to spend the time developing those features if the 80-20 rule or 90-10 rule is probably no, because 90% of the time they're going to click the advanced button and they're going to want to see it graphically and not sort of type it in sort of pseudocode way. Anyone else? Questions, comments, songs you want to sing? Well, cool. Well, I guess we'll wrap up a little early here, but thank you very much. This was a lot of fun for me. Thank you. Oh yeah, it's lunchtime now, huh?